Hi there, and welcome to the Driver Module walkthrough for Produce Pro. The Driver Module is a real-time delivery tool that provides delivery optimization through electronic signature capture, real-time updates, turn-by-turn navigation, can track your driver's location, provide cash-on-hand delivery support, and even track your task list. The Driver Module is Android-based only at this time. Each of your drivers will have their own login and password and will need to be set up as an operator in Produce Pro. This does not use Produce Pro licenses. In the upper left-hand corner, we'll see our driver's name. To the right of that is a force refresh button. The system is set up to automatically refresh between Produce Pro and the driver app about every 5 minutes. This force refresh can be used in between. To the right of that is your envelope icon. This is where the driver will see notifications that he has a message and also be able to send messages from here. And to the right of that is a settings key. Below there, we'll have the 2 trips that are assigned to that driver for the day. I'll go ahead and click on my first trip. And you can see there's 2 things you can do with a trip, that is view or start the trip. When I select view, it's just going to take me into a view mode, allow me to see everything about that trip and the stops, and even the products on that stop, but not allow me to make any changes. Then I'll have the start key. I'm going to go ahead and start this one, enter in my beginning mileage, and then if you have any pre-trip checklists set up, the driver will have to mark those off that he has completed, and hit OK, and at this point he can select Depart. Then I will see any trip comments that have been entered in Produce Pro. I'll acknowledge that comment, and now I see all my stops on my trip. So I'll see my trip number. Here we've got 2 arrows. That puts the driver into a drag and drop mode where he can reorganize the stops on his trip. That is a security measure that can be turned off. To the right of that is plus sign with a circle around it. This allows your driver to add miscellaneous stops to that particular trip. They can only add any miscellaneous stops that are entered in Produce Pro under that master file, and again is a security that can be turned off. To the right of that, force refresh button, and also your envelope icon again. Then we've got our stops. The stop numbers come from Produce Pro, so these are the same stop numbers that you're used when you put them on a trip. And then you'll see a navigate button here as well. This allows the driver to get turn-by-turn directions for that particular stop. They'll select the navigate button. It will then invoke any GPS software that is on that device, such as Google Maps, pop in the Produce Pro address that is in that customer master file, and then provide any turn-by-turn directions. So I'm going to go ahead and select on my first stop. I can see the address and I can go ahead and select arrive. And now if the dock is open for me to unload, I can also select dock. I'll see I have 2 transactions on this particular stop, an adjustment, which is a customer return, and then a sales order. One new icon you'll see is the camera icon, and this will invoke the camera on the device that the driver is using and allow him to take any pictures and attach to that particular transaction. Then those attachments will show up in Produce Pro, and anyone in the office can also pull up that attachment and see that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my first one. I'll see how many items are being returned and any instructions. Driver can hit details, and now he sees it's some green grapes. So the driver is going to check that off, that yes, he's taking them. He'll then hit finish. And at this point, show the screen to the customer, and the customer will also check that off. And now it will black that one out and take me to my sales order transaction. I can click on that. I'll see I'm dropping off 5 items, hit details, and I'm just dropping off some new grapes. So I go ahead and check that off and hit finish. And then the customer can also check theirs off and hit finish. And now it's going to bring me to my signature screen. So this is where the customer will sign directly on the device. They'll see their invoice amount in the background. And then you also have the ability to turn it on per customer if a typed out signature is required. Sometimes we can't read signatures when they sign them right on the device, so we'll want the typed signature in there as well. Then they would hit done. It's going to flash down here that the invoice is sent, or whichever delivery document you have set up. And at that point in time, that signed document is sent to the customer. It will send it to whatever customer contact you have set up in Produce Pro with that email address. So at this point I can hit depart, and I'll see that that one blacked out, and now I can go to my second stop. Go ahead and click on St. Jude's. I'll see here's the, again, address information. And this one has a driver task set up with it to make sure to give the produce manager a price list. So the office sent them with a hard copy of a price list for the driver to hand over. Driver can select arrive and dock, and then see any stop instructions. There's a delivery time, hit details, and now here's our quantities. This one only had a sales order attached to it, so it took us directly into that screen. Now in our previous example, I showed you them checking each one off. They also have the ability, if everything is perfectly fine, to hit the select all button down here, left hand corner. Finish. And then the customer as well, instead of checking each one off, can just select the agree button, and that will take them directly into the signature screen, put in their typed out name and select done. And at that point, that invoice has been sent. No changes can be made. So I'm going to depart from that stop and go into ABS Market. We're going to go ahead and select arrive and dock. No particular instructions. I can hit details. And now on this one, we're going to act like for the Braeburn apples that we were shorted on the truck. The driver is able to make changes for a lesser quantity. He cannot add quantity. If it's a change where he was shorted something, he could just click on the quantity, either just type it in or hit the plus or minus key, actually the minus key I should say, and then check that one off. I'll go ahead and say the other ones are correct, hit finish, and now it's going to require my driver to put in a reason code that I changed that quantity. So these are reason codes that are set up in Produce Pro and that can be tied to an action. So you can have them set up to automatically create a credit for you, however you guys want that to work. They could select short on truck, hit finish. It's going to change that one a different color because it is different from what was originally ordered. The customer is agreeing. It adjusts the invoice and they can sign off. It's done, and again it will show invoice sent. Driver can hit depart, and now we're going to act like we're entering in a miscellaneous stop. So I'm going to go up here and hit my plus key, and this is a drop down list. Again, it's only the miscellaneous stops that you have set up in Produce Pro that they can choose from. I'm going to put in lunch break and hit OK, and you'll notice that it just puts that in between. And we can see here that it just added that lunch break in between my two stops. Driver can then select it. For lunch break, all it is arrive and depart, and now he can go on to his next stop. I'm going to go ahead and hit arrive, done, go into details. You also have the ability to enter in a comment for a particular line. So I could enter in a comment here, and those will show up as any trip comments back on the trip worksheet when the driver returns. If the driver needed to add a quantity, so he had extra on the truck, and the customer said, I'll go ahead and take it. At that point, the driver would need to call the office, have that item added to the sales order, and then it would directly push out to the app and update the invoice, and then the driver could finish that particular stop. Invoice sent, driver can depart, and I'll go ahead and finish the rest of the stops. One other item you can do is you could undo your arrive. So if you got to your particular stop, and there was a stop instruction with delivery times and you're too early, you could undo your arrive, arrow your way back out, and actually skip over that stop and go ahead and click now on the following stop. It's going to give you a message. Actually this one is set up for a net 7 days customer, so it's giving the driver kind of a reminder note. Have you confirmed payments? He's going to arrive there, and at that point it's going to tell him, hey, you've got uncompleted stops. Do you want to go ahead and skip over that one or go back? He could skip, go ahead and dock, finish out that particular stop. This was a cash customer, so I'll see here how much was due. I could put in all cash, or I could even add a check. Select done, customer signs. We have some milk crates that were taken back. They could depart from that one. And then you'll see all it did was put St. Jude's down towards the bottom then. I'm going to go ahead and quickly finish the rest of these. And now I can end my trip. I'm back at the warehouse. I'm going to put in my ending mileage, and end my trip. That one blacks out, and I could go to my next trip. Now we'll move on to the driver dashboard. The driver dashboard is web-based, so can be accessed by anyone that does have web access or that you've given security to. So I'll go ahead and log in, and this is going to pull up. It's going to have your company logo information on there, and then we'll see an overview of all of your drivers for that day. It automatically defaults to today's date, but you do have the ability over to the right here to click on the calendar, change the date if you wanted to look back. You could also change to show only certain warehouses or even certain route categories if you use those. Upper right hand corner, we'll see the megaphone. This gives you the ability to send a message out to all of your drivers. You click on that, it comes up with kind of a chat window. You can type in and it will send it out to all the drivers. To the right of that, I've got my settings key. This allows me to change what I see on my dashboard. So if there's certain columns that don't matter to you, you can drag and drop and hide some of those. Then we've got a refresh button here as well. Again, it'll refresh about every 5 minutes between the driver module and the driver dashboard, but that can be used if you needed to refresh in between. Then you also have a search bar. Depending on how many trucks you have, this list can get pretty lengthy. So maybe I don't want to search through all of them to find my particular driver. I can just put in my driver here in the search bar, and it will pop me right down to where they are in this list. Then I can see just an overview of where everybody's at. I can see that this particular driver has made 6 out of 8 of their stops. And then below, I'm going to see the map that shows kind of where everybody's at. I can minimize this map a little bit and get a better idea. I can also hover over a particular driver and see some more information. If I'm using the hours of service add-on module, I'll see any hours of service information as well for that driver. If not, I'm just going to see the top 4 items. Okay, and now let's say we want to focus in on one particular driver. I can go to anywhere on that line and just click on it, and here I'm going to see information on just that driver. I'll see what device ID they have, what their route number is, truck ID, trip number, driver status that goes along with the hours of service module, and then all of their stops, who the customer is, and then arrival time, projected arrival, departure time, and projected departure time. For the arrival time, that will be when that driver hit that arrive button on the app. For the projected arrival time, we use MapQuest to get the time with traffic to the very next stop to figure projected time. For the departure, we use the time at stop fields or the customer master or control file to retrieve an expected service time and add that to the arrival. For the subsequent stops on that trip, so the not so immediate next stops, we just go down the line and add the time without traffic for the travel times between stops and the service time calculations between the arrival and departure. We only do live traffic for the very next stop estimates. The idea is that projected times show you the best estimate available at the time you're viewing the page to how soon you will arrive or depart that next stop. Departure time is when that driver hit the depart button in the module. Then lower left-hand corner, we can see all of the pin drops from the GPS for that particular driver. So we'll be able to tell what route he has taken for all of his stops. And then to the right of that is kind of another chat window where you could send messages to that particular driver or see any messages that that driver has sent back to you. So that takes care of our driver dashboard and our driver module walkthrough. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any additional questions, please reach out to your account manager and they'll be happy to help. Thanks.